Welcome aboard. This is the Miles to Go podcast. And now here's your host, Ed Pizza.
Welcome back to the Miles to Go podcast. If you're binge watching, it means that we look exactly the same as we did last week because Mr. Kerr and I are recording twice, so he doesn't have to see me around Christmas. That's my gift to you, Mr. Kerr.
I would see you.
Would you really? Oh,
I would
sweet.
see. If flights were affordable. Probably not around
You know, that's
Christmas,
what you could do. Instead of going somewhere luxurious or somewhere, opulent, just come see me for New Year's. I'll cook. We'll have a little campfire outside.
Dulles Airport for Christmas. Sounds lovely.
Spare bedroom at Casa de Pizza. We're running a double points promotion. All right. So up this week, the best and worst of 2024, including a status recap, what Mr. Kerr and I are going to end the year with on status, and what we think we're going to have for next year. A couple quick housekeeping notes. You can text us or leave us a voicemail, 571-293-6659. He is at Kerr Points on all those social media channels. I am at Pizza in Motion. At Miles to Go Podcast on TikTok and Instagram. If you're watching on YouTube, love it if you give this episode a thumbs up and subscribe. That's a huge help. And then every podcast platform you're listening on, same thing. If you can subscribe, leave us a thumbs up or a 5-star review. Super, super helpful. Mr. Kerr, how's it been since we stopped talking about 3 minutes ago?
Yeah. By this time, Christmas will have been over, so I'm going to tell you about my favorite Christmas presents. I'm really hoping I got that battery-powered edger so I can stop carrying that cord around. I'm pretty excited about that. Really excited about the Disney gift cards that everybody gave me. Hopefully they bought them at 10% off, and I've got a little stash here. And then hopefully we have an amazing stash of gummy bears that I can just, mash on over the new year. So I had a great hope I had a great Christmas.
As long as they're Haribo gummy bears, the world will be a better place.
Albany's, man. I'm on the Albany's. Albany's better than Haribo.
My daughter's on the Albany's, and that's why we had to ask her to move out. It's just the way it is.
Wow.
Speaking of Disney gift cards, we'll talk about that in 1 second. But if you want to support the show, help us produce all the video content that we've got, make everything look awesome, and be a part of our community, we've got a Slack community with a bunch of channels where you can ask questions of experts like Mr. Kerr and I, weekly Zoom happy hours, and then we've added a new feature I'm going to be testing for a little while where you can schedule a 15-minute Zoom session with me to answer travel questions you might have, help with trip planning, stuff like that. I'm scheduling a handful of those a week, so there is a little bit of a line right now because last time I checked, there is only one of me, Mr. Kerr. But to your point on gift cards, just real quick, I want to call out our buddy May in the Slack community because she turned me on to the deal that you had also jumped into, which was this giftcards.com deal last week where there was a code floating around for 10% off at giftcards.com for Disney gift cards. Then there was it 5% or 6% on top cashback?
6% on top cashback.
6% back on top cashback, and then there's a chase offer for 5% off up to
$50.
Yeah, okay. So you could, in theory, get up to 21% off of a Disney gift card. Great deal, and the sort of deals that we see pop up in the Slack community and amongst other folks in the Miles and Points community, but essentially just free money sitting around waiting for you.
Took advantage because you got to pay the old DVC, Disney Vacation Club point dues at the beginning of every year. You can pay them with the Disney gift card, and I just saved $200 off of dues, and I am thrilled about that. So
I am thrilled about that too. I can get ready to pay my dues as well. It's going to be it's always a painful time of year paying the dues on all my points, but at least I got them. All right, so I'm going to let you have first crack at telling us which way we're going. Are we going to start with our status recaps, or are we going to start with best of and worst of?
Let's knock the status recaps out of the way because I think the best of and worst of will be much more entertaining.
Okay, status recaps.
Even though I don't know my answers yet.
Yeah, me neither. Status recaps. I will just say I'm going to start with Flighty, even though this isn't status. My flat butt status of the year is 14 days and 10 hours total on airplanes, 139,000 miles flown, which I gotta imagine is probably a record for me. And interestingly enough, I think a record for delays too. 39 hours lost from delays in the year. 101 flights. Some pretty gnarly numbers. How about you?
Yeah, and I did not fly back and forth to Vegas as much as you did. I'm at 63 flights, 165 hours and 20 minutes in the air. Shortest flights, Nashville to Charlotte. Longest flight, London to Atlanta. And then 25 airports, 11 airlines, 40 different routes, 6 countries. All right, I'm trying to find the delay information here. Oh, here it is. 22 hours lost from, so a full work day.
Wow.
Sorry,
Yeah.
not work day. That's 3 work days. Actually, it's
Yeah.
2 work days for Bill. 1.5 for Bill. I lost there. Unfortunately, man, my most flown aircraft, the United A319. Oh, that's bad for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
All
I
those
wouldn't have guessed that.
flights to Newark back and forth, man.
But
when
they were all 319s. That's interesting because
Yeah.
I get so many different types on all my different flights.
They threw the old 319s with not working Wi-Fi and no in-flight entertainment on that Atlanta route. Scared me away pretty quick.
Yeah. All right. Well, then, and you gave a couple more details. So I had to dig in a little bit more here. So, oddly enough, my shortest flight distance is listed as 0 miles for Seattle to Seattle. So, some sort of a snafu in my calculations there. Shortest flight time, which will also certainly be the shortest flight distance, was when we flew from Kona back to Maui. So, 42 minutes. That'll also be a short distance flight. Longest flight, Dulles to Haneda, 6,767 miles. 26 airports. 8 total airlines, 52 routes. What else did you share?
I'm looking back through this list of flights, and I do not remember taking some of these flights.
Your most popular plane type. I got to find that. Most flown aircraft. Okay, I'm going to let you guess because of course you'll guess. What was the
United
most popular?
737.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So just for clarity, and I'll see if we can screenshot this and put it up on the screen for YouTube listeners. My most flown aircraft was the 737-900ER. My second most flown aircraft was the 737-800. My third most flown aircraft was the 737 MAX 9. And then two
Nice.
other. So yeah, my top 5, all of my top 5 aircrafts were different variants of the 737. There you go.
Exciting stuff there on the United 737. I
There
wish
you
my
go.
most flown aircraft was like the Emirates A380. Or like-
Yeah, right, exactly.
the Qatar.
Other great flighty stats. Oldest aircraft I flew on. You want to guess? How many years?
If it's not a Delta 757 for me, I don't know what it is.
How many years old do you think was my oldest aircraft?
Oh, close to 30.
Yeah, it was close to 30. Call 38. Is that close to 30?
A 38-year-old plane?
A 38-year-old 737. It won't let me say which one. It just has a tail number, so I'll have to look up the tail number. It's 38 years.
That's a good stat. I didn't see that one. All right, let's go through the next one. I'll look through that because we don't have to hang out.
Yeah. All right, so status level. So I'm going to start with Hyatt, 161 nights. Now, there were some credit card spend in there, but I absolutely maxed out the 150 nights, which means I got the ultimate free night award, which is valid, I think, at any Hyatt property. I mean, like, I know there's some funky, wild, crazy collections that maybe aren't included, but essentially a free night at any Hyatt affiliated property in the world. So that's pretty cool. I need to pick a few more Miraval nights there. Definitely renewed my United 1K status, though I don't know yet if I'll be renewed for global services. As we discussed on an episode a few weeks ago, I did roll over MQMs to keep my Delta status. I'm currently on track to retain American Airlines Executive Platinum, even though I don't actually fly that airline. And I think that's about it. Yeah. Anything I'm leaving out?
I don't think so. That should be it. So I'm at 103 nights for Hyatt, which is my most
Nice.
ever. I remember this time last year looking at 92 nights going never again, and we were at a solid 11 additional nights. And I'll be honest, man, I was thinking about it when I was at a family reunion in Hilton Head Island last week, the Marriott Vacation Club Surf Watch. I was actually very impressed by.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about, wow, I actually have a decent amount of Marriott nights this year. I've been on a cruise. I've been on a few vacation home rentals. Been in the RV. Like, I wonder how many actual nights this year I spent away from home. Like, it is a lot. This is definitely the most for me in any given calendar year where I have not been here. So I've got to be pushing. I had a couple of IHG nights as well. Again, just holiday. I've got to be really close to actually 150 nights with my head in a different bed than home.
Yeah. Yeah,
is a
I would
lot.
imagine I'm in the same too, because I mean, like the number of Hyatt nights I gave you, like certainly, it's like I said, some of those are credit card nights, but I stay at Resorts World a bunch when I'm in Vegas, so there's all those nights. There's the Fontainebleau nights. There were a few nights on our family vacations in the summertime where we didn't stay at Hyatt's. So unfortunately, I think my number's higher than any other year as well. So. The other interesting weird thing, it might just be a flighty bug. When I look up the tail number for the plane that they say is 38 years old, it comes up as a Boeing 737 MAX 8. So if there is a Boeing 737 MAX 8 that's 38 years old, I believe we've stepped into a very weird time warp.
Welcome, time traveler. I'm here. My other status, it looks like I am a couple MQDs off finishing my medallion challenge to keep Delta Platinum
Very
for
nice.
2025. Airline status, I've actually hopped around a lot more than I remember this year. As well, of course, a lot of United in there until I just had to tap out on the Newark experience this summer. Like we've talked about many times, I'll be locked in to Delta next year. Marriott Platinum, but I will not retain that. Looks like I'm at 40 Marriott nights this year and not going to do another 10 before the end of the year, so I'll drop down to gold for next year.
You don't have a Marriott credit card to boost that, right? Or do you have one?
I have the Marriott business card. But,
So you got 5 nights from that. Okay.
Yeah, 5 nights from that. So
Okay.
a lot more. I actually looked at that this morning in preparation for this and was like, wow, really? I thought I was expecting to be somewhere in the 20s.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. And so you think you'll be Delta Platinum for next year for airline status? Do you definitely think you'll keep Hyatt Diamond status, I would think?
Hyatt Globalist?
Globalist. Good
Yeah.
Lord, it was in my mind. That's how tired I am.
Hyatt Global.
Hyatt Gold Passport Diamond status, circa 2006.
I think of any lifetime status, although I think I'm Marriott Silver lifetime now, and if I had the Knights, then I would also be Marriott Gold lifetime. But I just don't think I'm going to get the Knights requirements. I am gonna work. I am almost halfway to lifetime Hyatt Globalist, which would just be amazing to not have to worry about being on this train every single year. Even though I'm not really worried about it, given the level of work travel I have, but I don't want to travel this much for the foreseeable future. So if I could just knock that out, that would be fantastic. So I'm on the Hyatt train, as we all know, for the long
For the
haul
duration.
here. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I put a note down for next week because we want to talk, best and worst stuff before this episode closes out. But I put an episode for next week to talk about advantages, lifetime status changes. Selfishly, because I want to lay out the different options available to me and have you give me your opinion. But for another day, Mr. Kerr. So yeah, that's our status recap. I think I'll be United Hyatt next year. I think you'll be Delta and Hyatt next year. I think that's pretty. We're both pretty locked in on that. I will say, like when we talk about the advantage lifetime status thing, I think if I don't requalify for global services, there's this question of, do I put more miles on American? Do I credit everything to Air Canada and try and go for Air Canada status? So bunch of questions coming up. Talk about that next week. Let's talk about best and worst. And I'm going to start with best hotel stay of the year. I want to be a good host and let you go first. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna write on a piece of paper what my favorite stay was of the year. So just in case you say the same, people don't think that I'm just making it up. So I have now written down my favorite stay of the year in my horrible penmanship, and it's here. So Mr. Kirk, go first, and we'll see if we match.
I mean, mine should be given to everybody. My favorite hotel stay is the Amanyara that we did for the
was that in
anniversary.
2024? I thought that was 2023.
No, that was just this summer that we did that. That was,
Man, that feels like 10 years ago. I'm old.
it was only June. Oh, I say only June, but that feels like a week ago to me. I can't believe we're at Christmas, and that was. Yeah, I literally remember that was like I have no idea how we got from June to Christmas, but yeah, hands down favorite hotel stay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So then I've given you a big hint. Do you know what my favorite hotel stay of the year was?
If we said we did matchy, I don't know. I don't know.
How many times did you and I stay together this year, Mr. Kerr?
I'm trying to think. The public ones or the private ones? Which one are we disclosing? I mean, we were at the Austin together, but they didn't have hot water, so I don't think that was your favorite. And then where else did we stay? I don't know, man. What year is it? The only way I know where I traveled somewhere is I just go back and what pictures were taken when, and my iPhone tells me where I was. That's the only way I know.
Yeah. So go to your iPhone, look at your pictures for November.
Oh, so this had to be the Evermore, even though it's not really a hotel, but
fair. But I would say that was my best. Now you can redeem Hilton Honors points for it, from what I've heard. So I'm gonna go with it qualifies as a hotel stay because that was my favorite of the year. I don't know if there's anything that was truly stand out on our Tokyo trips. I wouldn't say I love Fontainebleau. I went back through everything, and there was some stuff that was good. I thought the Grand Hyatt in Tokyo was a very nice hotel, but I really enjoyed the whole Evermore experience. It was really top notch. So that for me was my favorite.
Yeah.
All right. So did you have a favorite flight this year? I struggled with having a standout on this list.
I did have a favorite flight. It was the round trip big front seat that I took on Spirit from Atlanta to Vegas round trip. I had free Wi-Fi. That was the fastest Wi-Fi I think I had this year because nobody else was on it.
Right.
I had the big front seat in row 1. The flight was on time. The weather was perfect. The flight attendants were great. I had whatever the equivalent of sparkling wine is that Spirit serves while I typed emails. And it was just like a fantastic way to fly versus row 42B in the back of a Delta bus, man. Like, I just enjoyed that flight. That was my best flight, believe it or not.
Yeah. No, I could see that. I sort of got stuck in. I didn't really have anything that stood out. There was nothing I did that was unique for this year for me. I've flown to Tokyo before. Coffin class from Delta, for coffin class on Delta from Haneda to Honolulu wasn't really anything special. We had hoped to be able to fly Mokulele in Hawaii, so I think that would have been my favorite flight if I'd gotten it. So I didn't really have a flight that really stood out from a nerdy standpoint. I will say I'm looking at an early flight for next year, which is like complete airplane nerd thing. And this would be with the Dots, Lines, and Destination guys. They're heading to an airport north of Glasgow. I forget the airport name. I should remember it. Bari, maybe? Anyway, it's the airport where you can only land when it's low tide. And so they're gonna fly up for lunch during low tide, wait for high tide, eat lunch, and then take the flight out when low tide comes back in. So
Nice.
That might be my best flight for next year.
A lot of cool things that are out there that I definitely want to try from the AvGeek standpoint. It's been a while since I've had a good AvGeek experience because it's just all been work dominated travel. Like,
Yeah.
so I want to get out there and try some cool things here soon.
Yeah, no, obviously a large, healthy diet of both you and I for work travel. And I tell you, Dulles to Vegas, Dulles to Chicago, Dulles to Reno, like none of those are terribly exciting when it comes to aspirational travel.
Tell me about it.
So the third question on my list is now almost defunct for you because it was your favorite destination of the year, which I assume is going to be the same as your best hotel stay of the year.
I mean, that was a hotel, right? I didn't really experience the Turks and Caicos. Not that
Okay. All right.
that's something to like ever go and do a big cultural thing. I'm sure there's some amazing things there in Turks and Caicos, but I just don't know how I'll ever get that done. So I would say the actual favorite destination that we did that surprised me, I talked about, I think we did the cruise and we stopped at Malta for a day. And I knew absolutely nothing about Malta except for a lot of ships are registered there, so probably some kind of tax haven. And the Malta Cross, or I think that's what it's called, you kind of see around the world on a lot of different symbols. So Malta was fantastic. It surprised me, learned so much, strategic battleground basically since before Roman times all the way through World War II. History was fascinating. Really cool culture. I would definitely go back and spend some time in Malta. So favorite destination of the year was actually Malta.
All right, cool. I think that's a good one. I like a conceptual one. I really struggled to pick my best destination. It came down to 2 for me, and you'll tell me I can't have 2. So on the tiebreaker, I'm going to go with Kyoto. Now, I think there were some things that were really special about Nara as well, and so I'm sort of lumping that in and how we enjoyed it. But Kyoto really was a place that was like totally our jam. It wasn't that you spent plenty of time in Tokyo. It isn't that Tokyo isn't a cool place, but it's all the other places in Japan and all the culture and all that there that just like we just really enjoyed. And day trips from Kyoto to Osaka and Nara, like that whole time there. Only thing that could have made it better was if I was smart enough to jump on trying to get into the Park Hyatt earlier to have that incredible experience. But otherwise, hands down, Kyoto was just like a really special place for us. The thing that I would say that was almost tied with it was, as you'll remember, and probably most of our listeners and viewers will remember, we stopped in Hawaii on the way back. And the first time we went to Hawaii, I think you might recall, like the trip was fine, but there were just a few things that maybe didn't go our way, and like maybe the weather was bad here or there, and this and that. We didn't really have high expectations this time. This was more just like, hey, let's chill for a couple days somewhere on the way back and relax as a family. And I remember vividly messing up the hotel rooms for our first night there because I messed up the whole international dateline stuff, calling the Hyatt Regency Waikiki as soon as we landed, having them 45 minutes after we landed, standing in their lobby, having them upgrade our rooms to partial ocean view, connecting rooms with a suite in a heartbeat, dropping our bags 45 or maybe 50 minutes after we got off the plane, because 5 minutes to check in, throwing on our bathing suits, and literally an hour from getting off the red eye in Tokyo, we were in the ocean in Hawaii and just sort of vegged out. Now, I did break my toe that day, and that caused some issues over the next couple of months, but we just had 3 days in Hawaii where there were no plans. We were just going to pal around on Maui for a little bit. We did some swimming in the Waikiki area and all that, and just no itinerary, and had a really just fun time with no expectations in Hawaii for a handful of days. So for very different reasons from Kyoto, That was the most relaxed I was all year.
Sounds exactly what I need for New Year's. So by the time you're listening to this, I hope I'm in Hawaii for New Year's.
I hope you're
doing
back
nothing.
from Hawaii.
Doing nothing.
I think that would be an excellent trip. And it's funny because I was talking with Foz from Dots, Lines, and Destinations, and he was talking about how many miles he needs to fly next year to finish off his 4 million miles for Lifetime Global Services. And he's like, I think I might do a few mileage runs to Hawaii. And I'm just thinking, like, if I right now, you told me I could just go veg somewhere for a day or two, setting aside the long flight and likely in coach. Yeah, I'd go to Hawaii for a day or two. That'd be awesome.
Let's see what the old how many miles that old flight from Atlanta to. I don't want to go to Honolulu. I would love to end up on Kauai. We'll see how many miles that's running here.
Oh yeah, you don't want to look at Atlanta Kauai. You look at Atlanta Honolulu and then buy your hopper ticket because man, that the Atlanta to Kauai flight's going to be all your Sky Points.
Yeah, we'll see.
You tell me the number when you get up. I'm going to bet. Actually, let's see which one get it first. I bet you Atlanta Kauai on like the 30th is probably in coach is probably 60 or 70,000 a person.
I mean, you're not going to believe this, man. Because I'm not really believing what I'm looking at here.
Is your computer broken?
Some might be broken here. 29,000 Sky Miles with one stop in LA.
So you're telling me you're going to Hawaii for New Year's?
By the time you're listening to this, I hope I took advantage of this and I'm in Kauai because I can't believe I'm looking at this. But here it is, man. It's
a one stop and it's and like reasonable times too.
8:55 depart Atlanta, land 10:50 a.m. Los Angeles, 3-hour layover. 2:15 p.m. depart LA, land Lihue. 6:13 p.m. That is pretty legit for this last minute on this, man.
And this is the third. This is the 30th, right?
Let's see what old hotels are available down there. Let's take a look here at Emily's gonna kill me if I'm like, we're flying to Hawaii for 3 days. She's like, I'm absolutely not. You have fun.
I'll be honest. Like none of these prices to me are that high. Now I'm not saying I would necessarily pay them, but in terms of what I would expect to pay in Sky Miles, Comfort Plus 60,000. Like I'm not saying that's a great value, but in terms of what Sky Miles usually charges for stuff like that, 60,000 for Comfort Plus isn't horrible if you didn't otherwise have access to it. And then I mean, I hate to say this, but a true lie flat seat. Because this looks like this is a lie flat seat. 150,000 for. No, this is not a lie flat seat. So never mind. That's not a good deal. I misread it for a second there. It looked like it was lie flat, but it is not lie flat. 150,000 one way, and in a domestic first class seat is not a great deal, even for Delta Sky Miles.
I mean, again, you got to get on this Roam Skyview. You can do quick 7-day search real time. And just find some like it. I mean, we can go lie flat from Dallas for 88,000 American miles. Like, hard to argue with that, man. At last minute for holidays, it's pretty good stuff out there. So, anyways, we'll take a look. We'll see what's going on with Hawaii.
Yeah. All right. Worsts, and I didn't do any work on these, so I'm gonna try and come up with some on the fly here. Which means I'm gonna put you on the spot. Did you have a worst hotel stay of the year, and why was it in New York City?
Yeah, worst hotel stay for me. I cannot think of anything this year that happened where I'm like, I got to get out of this hotel. I can just think of, incredibly busy times where I'm barely in the hotel room for only 5 hours and just passed out. I will say, despite all of the great things about the Hyatt Grand Central in New York that I stay at all the time, if you get the wrong room there, it really needs some tender love and care from a maintenance standpoint. And like the shower's barely got any pressure, or the door doesn't really close, so there's water everywhere, or they got these shelves in the shower sink where if you bend your head down 4 inches to brush your teeth, you bang your head on the shelf. I mean, again, this is like just nitpicking the world out of it. But and again, there's a reason that it was supposed to be torn down during COVID, and I think they're still going to do that, word on the street. But if you do get the wrong room in that property, it could use some tender love and care. But nothing where I was ever like, I'm getting out of here and never staying again. And there's just too many upsides. So I can't think about a terrible hotel stay this year, man.
Yeah, for me, I would say the closest I came to a worst was expectations on staying at Fontainebleau. Now, I don't think I had high expectations when I stayed anyway, because I'd been through the property a bit before I stayed. But I found the rooms to be, just fine. And I think the reason why it was a low expectation for me and underperformed those expectations was just because the rates are normally so expensive there. I managed to get a reasonable deal there at the time I stayed, but I mean they're still a pretty pricey property for what they offer. They're pricing themselves in that Wynn Encore, Palazzo price range, but not offering what I would necessarily say that same level of luxury.
I take my answer back. The Vdara. That room was terrible. Vdara room was awful. That was terrible. Never staying there again. That was the worst.
I think that property is the same as Grand Central. That's very hit and miss. There are some rooms in Vdara that are very worn down and definitely need to be, refurbished, and others that are okay. I've had both good and really bad rooms there.
Yeah, Vdara was bad. That was a bad room. Needed renovating 5 years ago.
The plus side of my biggest plus with Vdara is just the fact there's no casino in it. But yeah, definitely get that. So Vdara it is for you. Worst flight. I have an idea on how to address this, but you want to go first?
Yeah. It's just down to New York City airport ops, man. Like I had to literally tap out of Newark despite having a very high status
oh my God,
with Global.
It's so bad.
With United, just because they have, and it's even now in the winter and the holidays, there is no hope of executing the flight schedule even on a perfect weather day. That you're just going to be delayed an insane amount, or the flight is going to be canceled, and then all of the flights to New York are full, so there's no way to even get there a couple days afterwards. And if you're not an expert level traveler, you are screwed. So pick any of the long hauls where I was stuck in Atlanta trying to get to Newark, or I was in Newark sitting there shuffling United flights to try and just get home, and it just got really, really bad. And then I would say being the over 4.5 hour flight home from LaGuardia last week really wore me down, but that was just because it's the end of the year and the last thing I wanted to do was take 4.5 hours of sitting on a plane to get home to Atlanta from New York. So that was pretty bad, but luckily no huge mechanical things, nothing scary in the sky, no bad turbulence, nothing like that. Otherwise it was, pretty smooth sailing.
Yeah, I would just say for me that there wasn't a flight that stood out. I even went through the flight history to try and find something. I think what it really came down to for me is just, there's just so many people that are so unhappy in airports, whether you're a flight attendant or a gate agent or a customer. I just think the whole system right now, there's so many people that make it harder on everyone else. And so it's tough. And it's, I try my very best not to say or do things in the moment when somebody does something. But I would say as a general rule, I felt like travelers as a whole were probably less well behaved this year than in the past. And I'd say I felt similarly about flight crews. I would just say in general, if you went about it with a little bit of optimism, it went a long way, because I think everybody was just ready for, you to say or do something horrible in the moment when something bad happened.
Yeah. People are definitely on edge. I don't know what it is that makes people lose their decorum when they head to the airport. Actually, just again, some really great stats here from Flighties, but exactly 49% of my flights were delayed this year, which means I got a 50-50
Newark.
50-50 chance of showing up to the airport and a flight being delayed. Is just a terrible way to try and operate, for business. That to me should not be tolerated. There should be slots taken away. There should be air traffic control upgrades, which we know the government
should actually fix the equipment that keeps breaking.
Fix the system. Otherwise, you should not be able to do this to passengers. Just the amount of stress of knowing 50-50 chance for an entire year that I show up that the flight is going to be delayed is awful. That's atrocious.
Yeah, they've got to fix Newark. They really do. So, last one up on our list. I didn't have a worst destination. I went through my list. I mean, I'm sure there was a worst destination, but there was really nothing that stood out for me where it was I didn't enjoy my time here. Certainly all the places we went as a family for vacation stuff were all great. And I think, all domestic travel was fine. I didn't have don't want to go back to this place this year.
Yeah, I would say same. I would say I'm good trying to stop at Civitavecchia again on a cruise, because that's not Rome. You're so far away from the city that trying to do that in a day is just going to be a miserable, miserable day. So we just stayed on the ship, and I took a good hard look at it again. So Civitavecchia is a solid skip for me. If you're going to go to Rome, fly to Rome, do the city for real.
Yeah.
Don't try and squeeze it in on a cruise. It's just not going to be very fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would absolutely, and I love Rome, but I would say that the cruise port is not Rome.
Not Rome. No.
All right. So where's your first destination in 2025 for that's not the trip with Mrs. Kerr? Is it going to be New York?
In New York City. That's going to be It's going to be a whole lot in New York City, and then we have Orlando, and then we do have the family trip on the Virgin deal in February to London, which I'm very excited about. So work. 1 weekend to play for Sparkle Mike's big 40th celebration that I just bought tickets for today on Frontier, actually. And then off to London. And I'm excited about, whatever we end up doing as a family in London and Europe.
Yeah, I'm really similar to you. I actually have a 50-50 shot on my first trip being New York this year. It's going to be New York or Vegas. I have a New York thing I have to do to sit down with one of our portfolio companies. So New York or Vegas are up first. And tentatively, I haven't inked this yet, but tentatively, while you're celebrating a 40th birthday with Sparkle Mike, I am tentatively going to be celebrating a 40th birthday party with Glitter Mike. So we'll see how that works out.
Hope they meet each other.
I hope they do.
Don't know who Glitter Mike is. Never met him.
All right, Mr. Kerr, 52 episodes in the book again for us this year. I checked the Vegas odds. Right now it's negative 160 is the money line for you and I doing episodes together throughout all of 2025 next year. You taking that bet, or are you going with the under?
I'm hammering that money line. Hammering it. Actually, really good podcast I listened to yesterday on NPR about the rise of sports gambling. Everybody should go and listen to that. Thought it was only 30 minutes. Fantastic. Talks a lot about where sports betting and sports books in Vegas came from, and thought it was great. So if that interests you at all, it was an amazing listen on the Planet Money podcast on NPR.
Planet Money podcast. I do like that, and I do like gambling. All right, so I'm going to put both of those down, and I have penciled you in for 52 episodes for next year.
I think I did miss a couple this year. I think I left you hanging a couple this year where you had to find replacements.
Could be. All right. So I'm gonna pencil you in for 49 for next year, right? 49?
Yeah, that's a solid over-under right there. Yeah.
49 is the over-under. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Actually, no, I'm sorry. This is Vegas. The over-under is 48.5.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
And I'm taking the over, Mr. Kerr, because I'm putting you in for 49. Yeah. Mr. Kerr, it's been a great year doing this with you. I very rarely say nice things about you on the show. It's usually just very, self-deprecating and you deprecating. But here we sit, another year in the books, and I'm happy to have done it. I hope people have enjoyed the breakout on video this year, and we hope to do some more fun stuff with video next year. Me and Mr. Kerr, co-pilots on 49 out of 52 episodes next year. I'm going to bet there are going to be a lot of miles sitting in a lot of coach seats on Delta and United next year for us.
Oh, man. There sure is. Been another fantastic year. Thanks to everybody who listens. I get a lot of nice messages and comments. People listen to the podcast. A lot of people reach out about the day job, and then they mention, hey, I'm actually a huge Miles to Go listener. I really appreciate that as well. This is still my creative outlet. Even though I have the day job in the industry side, I was in this arena for a decade, doing what I wanted, writing what I wanted, and talking what I wanted. So I really enjoy doing this. And like Ed makes it as easy as possible. My job is to literally show up and talk, and Ed handles everything else. And I continue to feel guilty about that, but obviously not enough to actually do anything about it other than show up and talk. And thanks to everybody in Slack. I do my best to keep up there. Ed is such a champion doing the happy hour almost every week and keeping up with every message, man. I cannot, despite my best efforts. I have no idea how you do all the stuff that you do, but I will try and be better in 2025.
I don't know how I do it all either. I definitely feel like I don't get back to enough people, but I've really enjoyed being on the ride with you all year. I think I heard from a ton of people who really loved when you went deep into the economics of Built. So if folks like that sort of stuff, let us know. Happy to dig into that more with other companies. We can bring on somebody like Julian from PointsPath and have him dig into his economics. I mean, I love that nerdy stuff, but I was surprised at just how many people really enjoyed that episode. So thank you for pulling back the kimono a bit and going through all those details. I think people really enjoyed it. And to your point, even though, like you say, you just show up and talk, we wouldn't have gotten to episode 52 in 2024 without our post-production specialist, Mr. Producer Jeremiah.
Big thanks.
And a thanks to Austin and Tori for all the social and video stuff. Mr. Jeremiah, I think this is your 5th year on the show.
Is it?
We're all getting old together. It's been a while, man. It's been a while, all through COVID. Yeah, I think this will be year 5 coming up. So wow. He will know the math better than I do. But all else being equal, Mr. Kerr, I wouldn't be sitting here with anybody else. And I'm looking forward to doing it 48.5 times with you again in 2025. Until we upload again, we've got 48.5 miles to go. Booyah. Booyah. Just so good. They call him Car Wash because he's automatic.